but also to inform the international community about an important event that we were informed on May 1st. On May 1st, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, they wrote a license number 42, against CITGO, against Venezuelan assets, that it has been carried out since the beginning of this year in all this fraudulent plot to illegitimate seize the Venezuelan assets. This began on 2017, when at that time Juan Guaidó was at the head of the Venezuelan parliament at that time. If you remember well, in the Venezuelan parliament, that was at the service of the government of the United States to steal the resources of Venezuela, to steal the gold that is in England, to steal CITGO and other enterprises. And they created a plot with the government of Donald Trump that tried to validate this cease. If you remember, on February 2017, Juan Guaidó named a board for CITGO. This was continue violating the laws of our country. On February 27, they designate a person that was not they didn't do so against the laws of the country. And this criminal, José Ignacio Hernández, we're going to discuss right now. He was the false, with a clear objective to begin procedures, international procedures, that our country is carrying out defending our assets. At that time they said this was our representative, and they leave Venezuela defenseless in the United States. Here are the
estafa, extorsión,
cooperator
inmediato en peculado impropio y falsa atestación, defraudación. Hoy, por cierto,
today,
en esta trama, como
in
lo
this
veremos,
plot that we're going to see right now, there's an article on this man.
Yo decía que esto es una trama que lleva años.
This is a plot that has been building for several years. From 2017 and on 2018, in Delaware, in the United States, a court decided on August 6, 2018, they authorized the seize of CITGO Petroleum Corporation. It was a Venezuelan enterprise to comply with pending payments to a Canadian enterprise. On August 6, 2018, this process began, and over the years, they added, among them, is ConocoPhillips. It's very important for you to know that this will allow to understand the reasons behind all this.
Para esta decisión de la licencia 42. ConocoPhillips,
Rusoro, Crystalex, Gold Reserve,
Hot Minerals, Owens, Illinois,
Northrop
Grumman Ship System, y ACL1 Investment. Esta es la lista de acreedores
This is the list
que
of
están registrados
those
en esa
companies
corte, una corte de los
who's
Estados Unidos,
registered in this
que
court in the
pretende
United
tener
States,
validación
that they try
en
to
territorio
validate it
venezolano,
in
que pretende
Venezuelan
tener
territory
validación extraterritorial sobre activos del
over
pueblo
assets of
venezolano.
the Venezuelan people.
En este caso, sobre un activo
In this
específico
case,
de
over an
petróleos de
specific
Venezuela,
asset
como es el
of the
caso
Venezuelan,
de CITGO,
that is the case of
empresa
CITGO,
venezolana
which
en
is
suelo
an
estadounidense.
enterprise from
En su
Venezuela
momento lo
on the
denunciamos.
United States. We
Violentaba
denounce
todas las
this
normas
at the moment.
que
It was
rigen el
against all
comercio
rules
internacional, que
that
rigen las inversiones internacionales. Nadie puede tener confianza ni
nobody
estar
can
tranquilo,
trust
ningún
and be
país
at ease
puede estar
in any
tranquilo de
country
tener un activo en suelo
to have an
estadounidense
asset
si
on the
saben
United
que de un día
States
para otro van a montar una
that
trama con una
if they
organización
know that
criminal para
from one night to
despojar
another they
esos
can
activos que no
invent
le
something
pertenece al
to
gobierno de los
seize these
Estados Unidos.
assets
No le
that
pertenece.
doesn't belong to the government of the
Y se
United
inventaron
States.
toda esta historia de un tribunal,
And they
se
invented
inventaron la
the
historia
story of
y se
this
sirvieron
tribunal,
de estos extremistas de la antipolítica
these
venezolana
extremists
que
against
defraudaron
the politics in Venezuela.
al pueblo venezolano, se sirvieron de ellos para adelantar y avanzar el despojo,
They use this
el
blood
robo de
to
nuestros
seize
activos.
and to steal assets.
Es muy claro.
It is very clear.
Año 2017,
On
designación de una
2017,
supuesta junta directiva de
they
CITGO.
designated this board,
Año 2017, designación de un procurador falso. Por cierto,
and by the
aquí
way,
frente a la Procuraduría lo digo
and against the
responsablemente.
prosecutor's office.
La empresa que inicia este juicio
The
contra
enterprise that
CITGO
began this
tenía en
trial
el
against CITGO,
expediente como experto especializado
they have as an specialized
al ladrón
expert
este que
to
se
this
autodenominó
thief that
y ellos
self-named
autodesignaron
himself to
procurador falso de Venezuela.
Venezuela's prosecutors.
Él fue parte en la defensa de Cristalex.
He was
Y
part of the
luego
defense of
se hace
Cristalex,
llamar procurador de Venezuela,
and
pero
then
para defender
he's
el
called
patrimonio
himself
de Venezuela,
Venezuelan
no, para defender
prosecutors
las
to
empresas que
defend
ya en el pasado
Venezuela's
habían
assets.
representado en una franca violación de todo tipo de normas, en un conflicto de intereses obvio si hubiese sido de
It's
verdad
an
un
obvious
procurador, pero no
conflict
era un
of interest,
procurador.
but because he
Es un
wasn't
criminal.
a prosecutor, he's a
El crimen
criminal.
organizado de la manera más
This is
sofisticada,
organized crime
dirigido
in the most
por el
sophisticated way,
gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
and is directed by the government of the United
En
States.
este hilo histórico del tiempo histórico, sabemos cuándo comenzó esto.
We know when this
Barack
event
Hussein
began,
Obama, el decreto considerando a Venezuela una
when
amenaza
Obama
a los
was
Estados Unidos.
president of the United States,
Luego el gobierno de Donald Trump,
and then the government of
bueno,
Donald
ya
Trump,
se especializa el crimen organizado.
they specialize this plot,
Esta
this crime.
licencia 42 de los
But
FARC
this license number
se
42
pierde de vista
can
en
be
el
lost
contenido violatorio
in
de
the whole
las
content,
leyes de Venezuela, del derecho internacional público, del derecho
violating
internacional
international
privado.
law
No
and the
quedó
laws of
norma
Venezuela.
sobre el planeta que no hayan violado con
There's
esta
no
decisión.
rule on the planet that they didn't violate
Hay
it
que
with this
denunciarlo
decision.
y
We
tiene
have
que
to
saberlo el
denounce
pueblo
this,
venezolano y la comunidad
and the
internacional.
international community and the people of Venezuela has to know
Quiero
this.
hacer algo de memoria. El 9 de
And I
enero
want to
del
recall that
2023,
on January
la
9,
OFAC, nuevamente, un actor
2023,
muy importante
the OFAC,
en este entramado de bloqueo y
a
agresión
very
contra
important
nuestro
participant
país,
in this plot,
de violación a los derechos sociales, económicos, políticos del pueblo
violating the
venezolano.
social rights of the Venezuelan
La
people,
OFAC emite una
the
licencia
OFAC
el 9 de
ruled
enero
a
del
new
2023,
license on January 9,
donde
2023,
dice reconocer
where they recognize
a la asamblea del año 2015
the assembly of the 29 of in
para que se
2015,
relacione con cualquier persona en los
so it can be
Estados Unidos,
related to any
con cualquier
person in the
entidad,
United
con cualquier
States
empresa.
with any entity
Y
and
ahí
enterprise.
empezaban las primeras luces de lo que sería
These were
esta
the first
licencia
steps
42.
of this license number 42.
9 de enero del 2023. Luego otra fecha importante.
Then another important
15 de
date,
marzo de este año.
March 15 this
La
year,
exdiputada,
former
que ahora
deputy,
forma parte
and that
de
is
esta
now part of
organización
this
criminal también,
organization, this criminal organization.
se reúne, según dicen en la cuenta de Brian Nichols,
She gathers with
se
Brian
reúne con el
Nichols,
Departamento de Estado.
and she meets with the United States Department.
Ya ahí están tramando
They're
lo que ocurriría.
plotting what was going to happen next.
15 de marzo de este año. Ahí ya está
this criminal organization for the United States Department of State, how they will perform this of this theft. And this is how it's done. We have to say it. This alleged assembly in 2015, recognized by OFAC as a legitimate assembly in Venezuela. It is not only crazy, because not only this assembly does not exist, because on December in 2020, the Venezuelan people elected a new National Assembly that was agreed with the interest of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and not compliant with foreign interests, not willing to steal the assets of the Venezuelan people. If you remember, 72 deputies and former deputies in January this year approved the alleged continuity of this assembly. And likewise, like some former deputies this seems a comedy, but it is tragic because of the meaning it has for Venezuela, with the cruelest blockade against Venezuela. These thieves that have stolen the assets of the Venezuelan people. And they decided that they steal the National Assembly, preparing themselves for what was coming on May 1st. Article 138 of our Constitution reads, and I quote, "Every authority seized is unable and its acts are void." And this is explicitly written in our Constitution. That's why we don't recognize any of these acts. They are void. The President of the National Assembly told it yesterday that he will request the immediate obligation of all these former deputies to apply this for the damage they caused to the Venezuelan people, to be a part of this theft, this unprecedented theft in the history of humanity. And here, the government of the United States, we know they intend to appear as a victim, that they saying that they didn't have anything to do with this. That's what they say. That in that country it's a separation of powers, and we all know how that goes. They are talking about separation of powers, and they say on April 7, the government of the United States, throughout the Department of Justice, the answer of this Delaware tribunal, specifically to Stark Judge. The tribunal asked the government if they could begin the process of CITGO and its assets. And the government said they didn't have anything to do with this. But in this letter, April 7, and is addressed to the Delaware Court, the Justice Department of the United States. And what this letter reads to whom the government is pretending that they were responsible for this. They say you have the green light to begin the process, the judicial process against CITGO, to favor these enterprises and against Venezuela. And we have to ask ourselves the reasons behind these decisions. Obviously, they're favoring economic groups, specifically in the United States. We will see who OFAC will give the blessing to still CITGO. This will be a decision of OFAC and the government of the United States. And this license, it reads that they authorize to this theft, to this alleged National Assembly, they authorize it to begin the process, negotiations, and they can establish negotiations to reach agreements, payment agreements with any entity and enterprise. And who is this person responsible? This criminal organization that is named National Assembly of 2015, or any other person or entity designated by OFAC. For example, this person is offered to be that. This Jose Ignacio Hernandez. He was willing to negotiate CITGO, the bonus of the Republic and the bonus of PDVSA, or any other asset Venezuela has. That's what they said, this is an unprecedented license. When we think we have seen it all, we were mistaken. That's why this license authorized the negotiations to negotiate the debts of the Republic and the debts of PDVSA, and to conclude these negotiations in agreements. And when there is an agreement, then OFAC will rule and will say who can buy and who cannot. Do you know this is really a shame? Our foreign minister can say it, and this is public knowledge. And then the Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, summoned an international conference to unblock the political process in Venezuela, and with a specific request to seize and to lift the blockade against Venezuela. On April 25th, 20 countries were present in this meeting, and there was the delegation of the United States marking of every country present there, because they already knew what was coming. They already knew what was coming, what was going to happen. 7 days later, on May 1st, that it was this license, number 42. They mock of the international community of Latin America and the Caribbean and European countries. They mocked these 20 countries. 17 countries of those present, they requested the lifting of the blockade against Venezuela. And they were mocking of everything now. While the international community, those 20 countries that were present there, they were to this meeting with good faith to participate to see how do they could support this process, this situation. And the government of the United States was already writing this license 42, but this meeting was held in Bogota. And we already knew this. There was a social agreement in Mexico, and who put a bar in this process was the United States. They have stopped that the resources of the Venezuelan government can go to the public services, to health and other services. It's the government of the United States. How can they say they are not behind this? If they sent a letter to the United Nations saying that they were not unblock these resources, but still they wanted to use this license that give this criminal organization, they allowed them to negotiate and to reach agreements to reach payment of these economic groups. We have to ask ourselves, because during the presidential race, where the president of the United States already announced his relaunch for presidency, but then again financing extremist groups of the Venezuelan opposition. They are mocking of the Venezuelan people, of our workers. Or Dinora Figuera is not from First Justice. They go and negotiate in Mexico, and behind our backs, they are stopping the Venezuelan people, stealing our assets. This is really a scandal, what this means, what this license means. The President of the Republic has ordered the Foreign Ministry and the prosecution and PDVSA to take all measures to defend our interests and our rights. We do not recognize any act, any negotiations, any agreement, any payment to any enterprise that is not validated by the Venezuelan state. Right. It's enough of this mockery. We won't recognize this. They are the responsible of the war against the Venezuelan people. And while our president was there on May 1st, talking with the workers, trying to find a way to overcome the difficult situations, socials in our country. This opposition group of the unitary platform, that they also mocking the Venezuelan people, that they do not take any actions without going to Washington. That if they want to drink water in Mexico, they go to Washington first to ask what kind of water they can take or what color of the glass. It's an extremist opposition with a homeland that is ruled by a party that is not a party, that has always been a criminal organization. Today is 3 years after Gedeon. Frequently, as a lawyer, and I say this for all lawyers of our country and the world, we will never guess that this agreement will be signed for mercenary invasion. When Guaido signed this agreement, that he signed all the prices to be paid of mercenaries to invade and to murder the authorities of Venezuela, to seize the public powers of Venezuela. 15 years ago, I've never seen anything like this. They have a meeting in Washington today. Leopoldo Lopez and Juan Guaidó. These losers that do not have the support of the Venezuelan people, and they will never be able to have it, because they only cause suffering and damage to these people, to this nation, to this republic, stealing our sovereignty, its integrity and social development. How they think that they can have the support of the Venezuelan people after these actions? We won't recognize any act. It's void in all its entirety. We won't recognize foreign jurisdiction, and we don't recognize any other law that those laws from our country. And the Venezuelan state and its public powers, we will continue to act coordinately to defend our country. That is what our people want. They want peace, they want development, social happiness. They don't want to see this that harm the nation and do not respect the United Nations Charter. And therefore, the Venezuelan president has been very clear to defend the rights of Venezuela, as he has always done, and where the Venezuelan people has been a champion to defend our country. They have regained the admiration of the whole world against this aggression, and that on May 1st, we have to say it. We have to ask more than one opinion from foreign lawyers, because we could not believe that they managed to do this. We couldn't believe that they dared to do this. It was hard to believe. But it's very clear, this license. They take these allegedly deputies that they will have to see the Venezuelan laws. But the final decision is from the government. The United States, it's lying to the international community. They are calling everyone every day. This letter, they made it public on March 28th. And they clearly give green light to begin this process against CITGO and its assets. We wanted to share this information with the Venezuelan people and the international community, and with the media here present. It's very clear. I'm going to request the Minister of Communications that share with you all the content of this license with the media, so there's no confusion and everything is clear. The government of the United States that is using a tribunal and economic groups to their own benefit, to their own political benefits, and presidential campaigns. It is the United States government. Thank you very much.
And we were listening to the Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, who was addressing the latest incursions on the U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control on Venezuela, as it took over the assets of CITGO, a subsidiary of Venezuela's flagship oil company, PDVSA. The Vice President reviewed the unfolding of these actions through the Obama, Trump, and now the Biden administrations. Also, Rodriguez explained the current dispute with OFAC dates back to 2017, when international institutions neglected and ignored Venezuelan government institutions with the purpose of stealing CITGO, monomeros, and gold reserves in the Bank of London, backed by the Venezuelan opposition figures. Rodriguez also explained the unlawful nature of these actions, as they undermine the welfare and stability of Venezuelan people and violate the South American nation's constitution because it recognizes as legitimate an expired National Assembly elected in 2015, ignoring the results of the subsequent elections in the nation. According to the Vice President, the self-proclaimed National Assembly is now authorized by the U.S. under the OFAC license to decide over Venezuelan assets abroad, which includes PDVSA subsidiaries, sell it, and seize the payments. The Vice President also denounced the hypocrisy of the U.S. delegation that attended a meeting on the political situation of Venezuela held in Colombia last week, as they already were aware of OFAC Title 41. Rodriguez stressed the government of Venezuela does not recognize the foreign intervention on its assets and wants social development instead of hostilities, and that Venezuela has the support of brotherly nations and its on justice side. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined,